Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Colcannon hash. That's right, I realize the St. Patrick's Day brunch is not really a thing, but if it were, this would be perfect. And yes, as the name would indicate, it is inspired by the famous Irish potato side dish, which I could describe right now for those of you that don't know what that is. But I'm not going to, since we did a video for that a couple years ago. So we will provide a link so you can check that out. It's basically mashed potatoes with benefits. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the only ingredient that prevents this dish from being vegetarian. A couple ounces of diced up pancetta, which we are going to crisp up in a little bit of vegetable oil over medium heat. And yes, you can definitely use bacon here. As many of you already know, the only difference between pancetta and bacon is that bacon is smoked and pancetta is not. So it really just depends if you're going for that smoky bacon flavor or more of a pure unsmoked porkiness. So up to you. You are the Johnny Cash of what meat to put in your hash. But regardless, no matter what you use, we're going to cook that over medium heat until it's pretty much crisp and most of that fat is rendered out. And it's that reserved fat in which we're going to cook our potatoes. So what we want to do when our bacon or pancetta is done is remove that with a slotted spoon. And of course, we're going to reserve that and we'll add that back in later. And then, like I said, in that reserved fat, we will cook our diced potatoes, which I'm going to show you how to prep right now. So I have 2 large peeled russet potatoes. And what we'll do is we'll cut one slice off so our potato lays flat, but not some random size slice. We'll make that slice about 3/8 of an inch, since that's the size we want these potato cubes to be. And once that's done, and we know our potato is not going to move, we'll continue by slicing the potato across like this into, yes, 3/8 inch thick slices. And then, doing half a potato at a time, we will flip that over on its side and cut this into 3/8 inch thick strips. Man, that's hard to say. And then, of course, once we've cut slices and then strips, we can turn it this way and cut across approximately every 3/8 of an inch. We should get a beautifully consistent dice, where virtually all those cubes are about the same size. But what about the ones that aren't? Never mind about those. We got to move to the next step, which is to transfer it into a nice bowl of fresh, cold water. So I diced up 2 potatoes and transferred them into some water. And the reason we're doing this is because these are going to cook up better if we wash off some of the starch. So what we'll do is we'll give that a little rinse and then change the water and do that a couple times until the water's clear. And then once that's been accomplished, we'll transfer that into a colander, spin it exactly once for no apparent reason, and let it sit there to drain very thoroughly. And then once we think our dice buds are dry enough, we will go back over to the stove, where we will heat our reserved fat on medium-high heat, and we will go ahead and add our diced potatoes. And by the way, I should mention, I tried to use the manual light exposure on the camera, which did not work at all. I really should read the manual one of these days. But anyway, we will add our potatoes and try to distribute them into a single layer. And of course, we're going to want to season these up. So I'm going to go ahead and add some kosher salt, as well as some freshly ground black pepper. And we'll go ahead and we'll stir all that together. And then all we're going to do is continue cooking on medium to medium-high heat until our potatoes are a nice golden brown. And I said cook stirring, but don't stir too much. Okay, we're going to want those to sit for like 3 or 4 minute stretches where they're just crusting onto the bottom. So leave them alone for a few minutes, and then give them a stir, and then kind of move stuff around, pat it down into a single layer again, and we'll simply repeat that process until they're a beautiful golden brown. And don't let the editing fool you, which makes it look like I'm just stirring these continually. I'm not. After I stir them, I even them back out, I let them crust up for a few minutes, and then I give them another stir. So I kept doing that until basically mine looked like this, which, by the way, if I was just making a plain potato hash, I would go a little further. But these are going to cook even further when we add the green onions, which is the next step. So at this point, we're going to stop and toss in just a little touch of butter, along with a whole bunch of sliced spring onions, also known as green onions, also known as scallions, and a few other names, but 3 names is enough. So we'll stir that in and continue cooking on about medium-high heat, maybe a little bit below. You have to adjust the heat based on what you're seeing in the pan, of course. And we're going to continue cooking that until our onions soften up a little bit, and our potatoes continue to get even more beautiful. And I should mention at this point, if you want, you can take a leek and do the exact same thing we did here with the green onion. It pretty much works just the same. And one could argue with the leek, you might even get a little better flavor. But anyway, like I said, we're going to continue cooking until we've determined our potato cubes are gorgeous and our green onions have sweetened and softened up a little bit. And then what we'll do at this point is add back in our cooked pancetta or bacon, and we'll stir that in. And then the only other thing we're going to need to add to this is our chopped kale, which, by the way, we will do at some point while our potato and onion mixture are cooking. And to make life easy for myself, what I have here is a couple big handfuls of baby kale, which not only came triple washed for my convenience, But because we're using the nice tender baby kale, we don't have to pull off or trim off any of those tough stems. So we'll go ahead and we'll give our kale the old choppa. At which point we can stir that into our potato hash mixture. And believe it or not, as soon as that wilts in, which is only going to take you a minute or two, we are ready to serve. Except for one very secret, very important ingredient. As soon as that kale wilts, I'm going to quickly stir in a little bit of sharp cheddar cheese, preferably Irish. And that's going to add just a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of richness, and of course a very subtle cheesiness. So we will stir that in, and believe it or not, that's it. And I know you were going to do it anyway, but just a little friendly reminder, make sure you taste this for salt and other seasonings before you serve it. But anyway, we're going to spoon that up, and then top it with 1 and or 2 perfectly poached eggs. And then we'll finish with a little kiss of cayenne, as well as a nice big sprinkling of freshly chopped Italian parsley. And I specifically picked a nice light lime green placemat to really bring out those colors in the hash. And it worked perfectly for having the opposite effect. So as you'll see, I lost the placemat, which helped a little, very little. And then I was going to mention something else, but I forgot what it was. Because all I could think about was grabbing a fork and busting that egg right in the yolk. So that's what I did. And look at that. That egg is so perfect, I don't even need slow motion here. But forget the physical beauty. It really is the taste and textures here that I enjoy so much. Okay, we have that amazing buttery green onion crusty potato mixture, plus that savory hit from the pancetta, and that little bit of richness from the cheese. And then all that's balanced by our delicious and nutritious bitter greens in the form of our kale. So just a great example of where some very basic, simple ingredients come together to make something quite special. So anyway, that's it. Whether you're planning to make this seasonal treat for Easter or Mother's Day, or you actually do use it for St. Patrick's Day brunch, and turn Erin Go Bra into Erin Go Breakfast, no matter what the occasion, I really do hope you give this a try very soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more information as usual. And as always, enjoy.